Good evening and welcome to ZigZag Live. Tonight we have a very, very special guest, original member of the Next Step band from London, Mr. Chris Marshall. Wave to everybody right there. Mr. Marshall is on, how long is this trip, this total trip?
13 years.
13 years. No, he's on a trip, I think it's 6.5 months.
It is.
6.5 months cruising on boats and trains around the world, and he has stopped here in Los Angeles, and he is sitting in with us tonight for ZigZag Live. Remind you that we are here doing ZigZag Live. All the text comes from the film 7 Year Zigzag, which is now available on iTunes and on Amazon, and we would love you to go and download it and check it out and tell us what you think. It's a true story about trying to start the new swing movement in the early 80s in LA and London, which is where I met Chris. We had a wonderful band. And we're going to do chapter 3, I believe, or this is chapter 4, excuse me. Chris is going to improvise as I read this text. Now, just for anybody who's tuning in for the first time, this is a story of, true story, as true as I can remember it and tell it at least, of leaving New York, wanting to make a movie about the end of the world called The Doomsayer and not being able to raise the money, and driving to Los Angeles and realizing that in order to raise the money, I probably had to have some kind of corporate success, a corporate successful movie, something that made a lot of money. Then I could go back and have the freedom to do The Doomsayer the way I wanted to do it. And overnight on this strange drive, I came up with this concept of the ZigZag Club, a 30s nightclub in the 80s that zigzagged between the 30s style music and 80s style music with a dance step called the ZigZag, where the man left half the time and the woman led half the time, and a nightclub and this music, and got to LA, and that's the part that we're going to talk about now. In the middle of the trip, I had this dream, and when I woke up, I found myself in Iowa City, and a lovely woman helped me sort of believe in this idea and go on to Los Angeles. And here is Chapter 4 from 7 Year Zigzag Live. I make LA, I hit the boiler room for a week of long-distance lies, bribing secretaries with personal gifts so they'll overload on office supplies. It makes me feel like shit, the things I said, but I did it just the same because I needed the bread. At the end of the week, I called my inventor dad, and Pop blew me away with an offer that he'd had. Now, while I was on the road from New York to LA, dreaming up the next step and trying to find a way to learn about the world of corporate bucks, Pop hit a streak of business luck. After years of struggle, work, and aggravation, he was offered $1 million to start a public corporation. Now, his partner called me to explain the plan. My Pop was in need of a right-hand man, someone he could lean on, someone he could trust. Opportunity was knocking. Surely I must take it, he said. I could make some real bread. A corporation. Was that for me? I was 10 years old in 1963, and when the 60s bloomed back in 67, I was in hippie heaven. Sweet 16 and 69 found me hitching around the country, making up rhyme. I believed in peace and love and art. Now 10 years later, could I really start to wear a 3-piece suit and have a title to boot? Secretary, treasurer, VP. This business thing just wasn't me. I was an artist, a hippie. I'd always been free. But then there was the question of family. My father needed help, and he needed it from me to keep the sharks away. And maybe he could teach me to play the game. He'd always been there, would always be. But this was the first time in my history I was able to repay in my own small way the support he'd given me. Now, I'd committed my life to an artistic vision, and now I was faced with this big decision. Could I take the interruption and yet avoid the game's corruption? But more important than cash or career, losing myself was my biggest fear. Becoming one of those guys with later in their eyes and a screenplay in a drawer that they have no time for. I called my friends to ask for advice. They all said, do it, don't think twice. But could I do both? take from the corporation what I'd learn and earn, get the Next Step movie made, then in turn, earn the cash to get the Doomsayer shot. Was it possible to do? Was I crazy or what? I sought more advice, and I found myself sitting in a partner's house where he and I had written some screenplays since our CalArts days. In the bathroom that I'd used 100 times or more were these Shakespeare playing cards, and I never picked them up before. This time I grabbed the deck and I cut it to a card that had a picture of Caesar and a quote from the Bard. I could have dropped dead at what it said. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at its flood leads on to fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of their lives is bound in shallows and in misery. Shallows and misery, full seas. If anything was, this was synchronicity. I made up my mind right on the spot to take the chance, and success or not, to justify the business, I'd take every dime and every second of my time that didn't go toward helping Pop to try and get the Next Step movie made and then the Doomsayer for 3 years non-stop. I saw the commitment like a 2-year Army hitch. 3-year Army hitch. First year's corporation first, third year I'd switch. At the end of 3 years, to the day, I'd take 3 full weeks and I'd go as far away as I could possibly get from my life in LA to examine and see who I'd become, to know and understand where I was coming from. I picked a special day to remember, to think of in the in-between. I left New York City October 31st. I took the next step on Halloween. Chris Marshall, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to play a couple of tunes for you. Usually we just do one original. We're going to do one, but we're going to play 2 tunes that we used to do as the Next Step Band. And this first one is written here in LA by myself and Dwight Dinan at the very beginning of the project. It's called the See Me, See Me, See Me side of LA. See me, see me, see me side of LA. It's very dreamy, kind of schemy. Everybody's got the little role they play. Well, everybody's running around in fancy new cars. They're acting like they're incognito movie stars. And if you don't, you won't get very far on the see me side of LA. Now if you come on down to LA, it's not uncommon to have to summon a little compromise along the way. Well, open up the door, you pray they don't close it. It's not what you wear, as long as you shows it. It ain't who you are, only who knows it on the see me side of LA. Dreams bursting like bubbles, clouds are full of balloons. When it seems like life ain't worth the trouble, you may just be quitting too soon. Yeah, love to see me, see me side of LA. It's very dreamy, kind of steamy, but every silver lining has a price you pay. Well, either you're the buyer or the one to sell. If you get your heart's desire, it's just as well. There ain't no place closer to heaven or hell than the see me side of LA. Well, everybody's smoking and the joking and the poking and the coking and the stroking and the poking and the things not spoken of. Can't you see it's not real, not really real at all, yeah. Why don't you come up and see me sometime? Chris Marshall. Marshall, ladies and gentlemen. Ish.
Some of me.
All right, well, nobody could do it any better than that. So this next tune was written by an incredibly talented, charming gentleman who now I understand has become the scholastic equivalent of Einstein in regards to Indian history. I thought that's what it was, but I didn't want to misspeak.
The
Mr.
English, British involvement in India and companies in India.
Yes.
And
Now you're-
India in India.
You're half Indian, but he is not.
I'm a quarter Indian.
You're a quarter Indian.
Yeah, yeah.
Which quarter?
About there to where I make my curries.
Ah, which are very hot. This is a tune that's very hot, written by Mr. Roddy Matthews, who I'm speaking of. There's a film called Strangers in Paradise that has a wonderful this rendition of this song that was recorded by the band in London with Roddy conducting the orchestra, and it's in the movie 7 Year Zigzag. You can see a little clip of it. Anyway, this is a song called Nobody. Thank you, Roddy. Well, let me tell you now where education is concerned. What they thought they taught me is not the same as what I learned. Now everybody says I'll never win no Nobel Prize, but I learned that being clever's not the same as being wise. I don't care what they say, 'cause I've made up my mind. Gonna do what I want, gonna leave the rules behind. Na 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 na, nobody's gonna put me down. Na 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 na, no one. Na 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 na, nobody's gonna put me down. Na 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 na, no one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now all my life I've only ever tried to be myself, but everybody tried to turn me into someone else. I don't want to be a leader Trump, I don't want to be led. Just trying my time, just trying to keep this one next step ahead. I don't care what they say, 'cause I've made up my mind. Gonna leave what I want, gonna leave the rails behind. Na 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 na, nobody's gonna put me down. Na 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 na, no one. Na 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 na, nobody's gonna put me down. Na 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 na, no one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Na 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 na, nobody. Na 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 na, no one, no one, no one. Na 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 na, nobody, nobody. Na 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 na, no one. Na 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 na, nobody's gonna put me down. Na 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 na, no one. Yeah. Na 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 na, nobody's gonna put me down. Na 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 na, no one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No one. Thank you, Mr. Chris Marshall. Thank you, Roddy Matthews. I hope you're not watching. Okay, one last tune. This is a recent tune, and Christoph has just learned to play it. We'll see about that. If love feels like falling, being finally alive like a calling, if each moment's heaven is something never ending, an earthly heaven life with deeper meaning than I love you. And if love feels like trusting, being revived, deeply lusting, if each kiss is heaven, something never-ending, an earthy heaven, touch with deeper meaning than I love you. As all I've ever been, and is all I hope to be. I stand before you now, and I know somehow you see the best in me. And if love feels like winning, starting my day with you, my head spinning, if each moment's heaven is ours for just the taking, because this earthly heaven is of our own making, then I love you. I love you. Take some. I love you. As all I've ever been, and is all I hope to be. I stand before you now, and I know somehow you see the best in me. And with all that I have learned, and with all that I hold true, I stand before you now, and I know somehow I see the best in you too. And if love feels like daring to open up our hearts, truly sharing all that comes with heaven, sometimes hurts like hell, this earthly heaven we navigate so well together, then I love you. Chris Marshall, ladies and gentlemen. Check out 7 Year ZigZag on iTunes and Amazon. Available now. Download and let us know what you think. Thank you very much. Good evening. This was ZigZag Live.